All right, I didn't get to the end of my human factors PowerPoints, so to do justice to all the fine work that I did. Get the lights back there. Oh, there's another table back there. Spot. Well, you're the closest to the lights, so you got to get the lights. There you go. Pre-flight inspections. You failed. What's wrong with this picture? Can you see it? The bar that you used to pull the airplane around is still on it. Oh, hi. You probably didn't mention it sooner, but I usually start right about 3:30.
No, that's exactly I'm sorry.
What's your name?
Cornelia.
There you go. You're on the camera, so everybody knows you're late. All right. It's important that you always inspect your turbochargers. Anybody missing a 7/16 inch wrench? I found it. What do you think a turbo costs for, not a turbo cost, I don't even know. What do you think an overhaul costs on a turbocharger?
At least 75,000.
75,000?
20 grand.
Well, I
65.
I think 65,000 is a little excessive for a turbo. Probably at least closer to 10,000. I'm not sure. Some of these I just stole off the internet. You missing your WD-40? He looks like a drive shaft found it. And it looks like that drive shaft's getting pretty thin too. If it is a drive shaft, it's only going the tail rotor. That's not a big deal. This is inside a belly of an aircraft. That is a nut. Those are pulleys. You are not supposed to have the wires go underneath and saw through nuts. I just don't know why my rudders are so stiff. I told you propellers hate you. It's common for people to pull your propeller through. On radial engines, it's common. We don't typically do it. I don't typically do it on flat engines, horizontally opposed engines. They just don't collect oil in hydraulic lock. So, but radial engines you do. So radial engines you do have to pull the propeller through before you start them up. But he's just pulling it through, making sure that everything's clear. There's no problems. Yep. I like this guy, Bill O'Brien. Well, he passed away in 2008, but he was kind of, as far as I'm concerned, one of the first FAA guys, front mechanic FAA guy who kind of stood up and said, hey, we're professionals. We're not just a bunch of grease monkeys. And he was instrumental in promoting education. So go to school, get your degree. He worked with Roswell, school in Roswell, ENMRU, something like that. Eastern New Mexico University of Roswell, there you go. Where once you get your A&P, you can go there online, submit your A&P, and you only need a couple classes to get your degree. So I know right now you're thinking, I just got to pass 309, dude. I don't like talking about degrees and stuff. But if I don't get a chance to say it later, don't ever stop learning one way or another. You never know what's going to come your way in life. So you're thinking, well, I'm going to go work on airplanes. Well, that's all fine and well until someday some opportunity shows up and they say, well, you have a degree? No. I know everybody says, I'm 2 classes short. Everybody's 2 classes short. You know what catalog rights are, by the way? So when you go to a school, like right now, you're enrolled in Sacramento City College. And let's just say today's your 3rd day going to Sac City College. For many of it is. You have what's called catalog rights as of right now, which says if you walked in to see a counselor, they would sit down and go, oh, okay, in order to get a degree, you need to finish your A&P and you have to take like these 5 classes, right? An English, maybe a math, world history, blah, blah, blah. All right. They sit you down and say, okay, you need these classes. And like, shoot. And you do most of them. Maybe you're 1 shy of that degree. Then you go away for 5 years to come back and go, hey, I'm going to take that class to get my degree. No, you're not. Now we have a new set of requirements. So your requirements are set right now. It's called catalog rights. They can add 20 different classes, and you'd be like, nope, I got catalog rights. I started today. So the longer you wait, the more classes they tend to add. So if you can remember, when you're done getting your A&P, it would be worth it for you to take one class at a time, online, get your degree. You never know where it's going to lead you. So, I did that. Went out in the field, worked for several other things. I got my pilot's license, my IA, all kinds of stuff. And then I thought, I don't know, I should go back and finish that degree. I finished my degree. Man, I should get a bachelor's degree. Nah, I'm not getting a bachelor's degree. Shoot, by the time I get my bachelor's degree, one class at a time and graduate, man, I'll be like practically 50. My wife goes, well, would you rather be 50 with a degree or 50 without a degree? I'm like, got a good point. So got my bachelor's, and then once I got my bachelor's, I'm like, well, shoot, might as well just get a master's degree now. So just keep going. So anyway, this guy, I've heard him speak. He was awesome. Great individual. Like I said, he really promoted us as professionals. This is something he said. It really stuck with me. If you work with your hands and your hands only, you're a laborer. If you work with your hands and your mind, then you're a craftsman. But if you work with your hands, your mind, and your heart, then you're a professional. So that's what we're striving to do here, be professionals. I think that was it. And there's a video. It's online. All right. I am going to... Did I start this yet? Yes, I did. Good for me. All right. We're going to shift gears again today. Human factors, done. What was after human factors? Oh. Privileges and limitations. Check. Now we're going to move on to precision measuring, torquing, and safety wire. So these are going to be more of your hands-on, manipulative skills. Some of this stuff's a little difficult to actually try and explain. You just have to get in and do it. But there's certainly a lot of this that I have to show you and teach you how it works. This is definitely one of those things where if you don't understand what I'm saying and you think that, well, probably won't matter, you're wrong. It is going to matter. So you definitely want to keep up. Ask questions if you need to. Let's make a new one here. There we go. All right, so we are precision measuring. All right, aircraft mechanics. One of the things I love about being an aircraft mechanic is it's black and white. It's good or it's bad. There really isn't a whole lot of it's good, marginally acceptable, probably ought to think about changing. It just, boom. No, I shouldn't say that. Sometimes there are things like that. We're like, oh my gosh, there's not enough data to support this decision. Anyway, we do things wrong, people die. And we have to be on the lookout for what we're doing and always thinking about stuff. Aircraft manuals don't always make our lives very easy. Sometimes they hide stuff. A lot of that is experience and working with somebody who knows what they're doing, saying, no, you need to check that, and it's in this manual over there. And you're like, how the hell would I know that? Well, either sit down and read the whole manual, memorize it, or work under somebody who knows this stuff and teaches you that. So it becomes a bit of a problem. Let's see. I threw in some statements here. Some of my favorite statements. That should work. So most of you are not pilots, and you have no concept of what it's like being in a small single-engine airplane at night over the mountains with absolutely no place to land. And so you start thinking about little tiny things about, you know, I know there's this one bolt doing this one job. If that thing were to come loose right now, that's it. And you realize your entire life is dependent upon that one bolt. And then you try not to think about that too much anymore because the engine starts running a little bit rougher at night. And then you get over the mountains, it runs a little bit rougher still. And then suddenly when it's daylight and you have it over the runway, it doesn't run as rough anymore. It runs fine now. It's all in your mind. So anyway, you don't want to hear stuff like, you know, before you take off on a flight. Well, that should work. What do you mean should? You know? How about that will work? I would like to hear that will work. I don't see why that won't work. Somebody says that, I don't see why that won't work. Okay. Does he have a vision problem? I don't know. What is your education and background in this? I worry about that. It'll probably work. How about this one? Well, that's the way we've always done it here. Norms, yep. I think I tightened it properly. But we think you tightened it properly. No. I don't have this one on here, but it just came to mind because I hear this one a lot. Well, damn, man, it flew in. That is true. It did fly in. So you're telling me that it's acceptable because it flew in. So probably the best one I've ever heard was a few months ago, when I told a customer that his seatbelts were, let me back up a little bit. I went to some training where a guy from the NTSB, he was an NTSB investigator in our area, spoke. Probably one of the best speakers I ever heard. He was not dynamic. There's nothing about him that was spectacular. He just brought slides and just told us what we were looking at. And man, did it leave an impact on me. Like he would just, the one that I'm thinking of, he just showed a picture of a glider. And it had crashed. And it was just a close-up of the cockpit. And he goes, glider crashed. Guy in the front lived, guy in the back died. He goes, when that happens, we always want to know what happened because it's a survivable crash. One person lived, the other person died. Why'd the other person die? Simple. Seatbelts in the back were exposed to more sunlight than the seatbelts in the front. Upon impact, the sun-rotted seatbelts failed. The guy went forward, hit his head, and died. Had the seatbelts have been not sun-rotted, they both would have survived. So I'm like, wow, seatbelts, sun-rot. That's, something we're thinking about. So I was inspecting a plane the other day, and seatbelts were a little greenish, kind of an odd color, but so was the interior. It's a little greenish. So I'm like, not my favorite. It's retractable. I pulled it out to look at it. Wow, after about that much, it's black. So these used to be black seatbelts that have faded all the way to light green. I was saying, you need new seatbelts. I mean, they're the original of the airplane. They were put in there 70 something, so they're 50 years old. I'm like, it's time. Seatbelts are a bit pricey. We don't think about it in cars. We just don't have cars that long. But in airplanes, you do. We take them out. We have them rewebbed. Send them to a company who actually reuses the steel stuff, rewebs them for an whole airplane. It's like $700 to $800. And I'm like, we need to do this. And his comment was, why? They work fine. How are you defining they work fine? I mean, have you crashed it on the way in? Did you test this? Did you? But yeah, he was very adamant. They work fine. I'm like, okay, good for you. No. So, all right. So we want to make sure we're doing things right. One of the ways we make sure things are right is we have to measure things. We don't necessarily use a yardstick and rulers. So we're going to talk about precision measuring. So to do that, we're going to use precision measuring equipment. It is going to measure down to 10,000ths of an inch. So when we look at numbers, if we had a number that was like 1.2345, there we go. This position right here, as everybody knows, is what position?
Most significant.
Ones position. Okay, but then we move over here, and that is the tenths. That's 1/10 of an inch, or the tenths. My 3 here is hundredths. 1/100th of an inch, or we can say hundredths. Right over here, my number 4. Thousandths. It's 1/1,000,000. Thousandths. And the last one right there is 1/10,000, or 10,000ths of an inch. It can get confusing how to say these numbers. If I had 1.2, or let's just get rid of the ones. There, 0.2. I would say that is 2/10. Some people would say that's 20 hundredths. Some people would say, no, that's 200 thousandths. It's all the same thing. What if I just said it's 0.2? Everybody knows what I'm talking about. My point here is people say things different. I have a real bad habit, and I don't really tend to break it. How much is that?
5/10 thousandths.
5/10 thousandths. 0.00. I say it's I need more room. Half a thou. That's what I call it. It's 1/2 of a thousandth of an inch, because this times 2 equals 0.001. That's 1/1000th of an inch. So it's 1/2 of a thousandth. I don't know. It's the way I work. That's what we called it. That's what I went with, and it's just hard to break. So I am more interested in being right than I am how you say it. I'll always be this way. You guys have your calculators. We don't need them just yet. But I have no problem, and I don't think you're stupid. I don't think actually, I kind of think highly of you. If I asked you a simple question like we're working over there and you're doing something, I said, well, what's 4 and 4? And you're like, 4 and 5. I don't know. Just calculator 4 plus, it's 8. I'm totally fine with that. You don't lose points. I don't think bad of you. I think to myself, there's somebody who's a little nervous who wants to give me the right answer. You can't do any better than that. So don't be afraid to use your calculator for simple things, number one. Number two, don't be afraid to ask for clarification or say something in a way that your brain works. Maybe your brain sees this as 0.005, and that's just the way you see it, and that's the way you want to say it. I understand that, and I will speak your language with you. I have no problem with that. It's okay with me. I want you to be right. So when we work on airplanes, you want to be right, not to impress somebody. So if it works for you to say 0.2, say 0.2. I don't care. 1.2, 1.2. Got that? So you're off the hook. You don't have to have any fancy language. It'd be nice if you kind of understood it, but I recognize that if you're reading a manual, they're going to give it to you in a numerical form. So you can call it in your head what you want to call it. So the other day I was working on that trim, and it said, oh, you have to have, the plate cannot exceed 0.122. Well, what is that? That's 0.122. I don't call it what you want. 122 thousandths, if you want to call it that. That just sounds confusing a little bit. So got it? Okay. So hopefully that kind of puts you at ease there. All right. So for comparison or size reference here, as an engine builder, my whole world pretty much revolved around those numbers back down there. That's where I live. So for size referencing, let's see, paper thickness. How thick is a piece of paper? I hear 0.2 thousandths, 0.002. Does that sound right? It depends on what bond paper. You guys watch The Office? Jeez. I usually say it's about 0.004, so it's somewhere between 2, 3, and 4. So, piece of paper. Let's see. This is not the appropriate tool for this, but we'll just see. That one is 4. That is 10. 0.010. All right, paper thickness. Pink. How much is a hair?
62.
How much? Can't hear. Depends on the color. About the thickness of a piece of paper. Aluminum foil that you get at home. You guys are a dead group. How thick is a piece of foil?
15 thousandths.
15. 15,000, 0.015. How about the heavy duty? I said duty again, that's awesome. Is 0.001. That stuff is actually really, really thin. Yeah. All right, well, so when you're working with this stuff,
Kevin,
yeah,
what are the units for this? Is it like centimeters, millimeters?
Inches.
What? Oh, yes.
inches. I joke around. My dad, my great grandpa did not fight in World War II. Me to stand here and use a metric
Amen.
system, damn it.
Right.
Actually, it was my grandpa, not my great grandpa. And for those of you who don't know history, it had nothing to do with the metric system. All right. Almost all of our planes are not metric. Some of the newer ones are, but they're pretty new. And they're starting to get into the millimeters. But I don't think there's anything on your test from the FAA that even deals with millimeters yet, centimeters. So you don't have to learn it. Woohoo. Let's see. Remember which number is larger. If I have 0.18 and I have 0.174, which is the bigger number?
0.18.
1.8 is larger. Because we're going backwards. Got to remember this. Because it's easy for somebody to look at that and go, whoa, wait a minute, 18 is way smaller than 174, but we can add zeros. Now it gets really confusing. So 0.18 is bigger than 0.174. Oh, rounding. Let's talk about rounding. So I'm overhauling an engine and I measure something and I think, whoa, how am I going to round this number up? So I measure it and it's I'm trying not to make this too complicated. 2.1235 is what I measure, and the book said it should be between 2.123 to 2.124. Which way would you round? What? Round up, round down?
Round down.
Yeah, you're all wrong. You fell into my trap. That's the number. But it doesn't matter. Well, I should have used some different numbers. I could have said, well, my point is this. You don't round. There's no rounding in measuring. It is exactly what it is. You do not round. No rounding. So, no rounding for measurements. We'll talk about rounding later. Because I actually said, move this to math, because we don't round here. All right, so that's some numbers for now. So how do we do precision measuring? Well, your best friend is going to become the micrometer. Never mind the numbers on there, because I actually stole this off the internet, and I inadvertently picked one that is in metric. So the numbers will not make sense. So don't look at the numbers, just ignore that. Bad numbers, bad. This would actually be, well, I'm not going to fix it. All right. I actually counted micrometers. I thought, man, it'd be cool if I actually brought one over for everybody. But it would make a mess of the tool room that I thought, no, then you play with micrometers the whole time. It wouldn't actually look. So there are different nomenclature here of the micrometer. Again, I'm not all hung up on you memorizing stuff like this, but I want you to understand what it is and why it's there, because that's what's important. The first thing, we can start down here, it has a heat insulated handle, because micrometers get really hot. You're like, no, they don't. I'm just making that up. They don't get hot. Why would I have a heat insulated handle on it?
Insulated from being hot.
Insulate it from being hot. You are hot. Your temperature is going to expand and contract the metal. So, heat insulated handle. Does that mean you should only hold it there? I don't know. Problem is, you're working in an environment where your material is subject to changes in temperature. So when I measured crankshafts, I could get close to 1,000ths of an inch difference between morning when it was really cold and the afternoon when it got hot. So comes a problem. So you want to try and measure it at about 75 degrees, 70 degrees, room temperature. So keep everything at room temperature, then you'll be fine. You're not room temperature. You're a little bit hotter than that, so you would expand the micrometer. We got the frame. Frame's a frame. Who cares? Anvil. This is important here. Carbide measuring tips. Anybody know what carbide is? Carbide? It's a very hard metal. The harder you make metal, number one, the more brittle it becomes if you drop it. Number two, if you have a softer metal and a harder metal, which one does the scratching?
Harder.
Carbide. So you're really prone to scratching parts with this thing. So I brought in a crankshaft. This is a small crankshaft. Probably the smallest one in aviation. Well, the A65. But in modern engines, it would still be made. This is, without a doubt, the smallest crankshaft now made. It came out of a Continental O200. That's 200 cubic inches, put out 100 horsepower. Found in all the Cessna 150s. Care to guess what this little beauty would cost?
$10,000 plus.
If you could find one, at least $5 to $7 grand probably. If you could find one. They're hard to find. What could you buy for your car for $7,000? A whole new engine? A whole new car? My car? Yeah, a whole new one. Yeah. All right, so we're going to be careful of those carbide measuring things. We have a locking device here, so when you, I've got a micrometer. I happen to bring the really crappy set today. Okay. You might want to turn on one of the lights so you can see what's going on. All right, so it's got a locking device. This one is circular up here. So when you measure something and you put it on, you measure it. Maybe it's in a hard to get to spot. Can't quite see it down there. Get in my bifocals. You can lock it, slide it off, and bring it up and get it into your bifocals. Oh, okay, I see it now. Okay. So that locks it, allows you to slide it off. If you don't lock it and you slide it off, this moves. If this moves, your readings are going to be off. Got the thimble. We're going to veneer scale. We're going to talk about that, and the thimble's the movie part. It moves. All right, but then there's the ratchet. How do I explain the ratchet? Somebody in here is going to screw this up. Somebody's. So if I want to measure my water bottle here, and I put this on here, and I start tightening this up, my water bottle is going to be exactly what it's going to measure when I stop turning it. And so I sometimes need people in there, and you just see how, and you can just, my water bottle is a little flexible, so it's going to get smaller and smaller and smaller. Well, if I tried to measure the crankshaft, what it does is it spreads this out further and further and further. So you can't do that. So the people who made the micrometer said, well, we got to have some mechanism so you know when to stop turning. So on the end, there's a little clicky thing. See, so if I let go of that, see how it spins it? But if I hold it still with the other hand, it says, oh, we're done turning. So it gets to a certain point, it clicks. Kind of like the gas cap in your car. If you have a car that takes gas and a gas cap that moves. Some cars don't have gas caps anymore, huh?
No, they just have an anti.
They have a what?
Like anti-theft thing, yeah.
What?
Like anti-theft thing built in.
Oh, anti-theft.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So that's how you do it. But here's what I see not you, but the other class that I had, the FTs. They will put it on, crank it down as hard as they can, and then go, oh, look, it clicks. Well, no shit, it clicks, because you just torqued it so tight that you need a wrench to get it off. All right, so you understand? You cannot tighten it up as tight as it goes and go, oh yeah, it clicks. It must be good. It doesn't work that way. You tighten it with the clicky part. And that's all you do. Oh, it's good, that went all the way. There we go. All right, understand?
Yes.
Again, everybody, nobody's going to be over tightening and then clicking, because that's just ridiculous. So you bring it on with the little clicky part. Now when you get really good, you got years of experience, it's actually easier for me to not use the clicky part, but after you've done this a couple days, by the time you're done with 309, you'll go, I know how to make it. You'll be pretty dang close to getting it just right with the clicky too, but you can use a little clicky thing. Okay? So no over tightening and then hitting the ratchet. That makes no sense. I hope you understood that. All right. Those are the parts of the micrometer. Let's see. You turn those off? All right. Then we've got the little scale right here. And that's where we need to spend a little bit of time. Oh, yeah. So micrometers, they read in 1-inch increments. So this is a 0 to 1 outside micrometer. Because it was meant to be used outside. No. It reads the outside dimension of something. If I want to read the inside dimension, like a cylinder. If I want to measure the outside right here, I would use an outside micrometer. If I want to see what this is in here, I'd use an inside micrometer. So it's not really inside, outside. At the classroom, inside, outside there. So 0 to 1. What's the next size going to be, you think?
1 and 2.
1 to 2. Next size is 3 to 4. So they only go in 1-inch increments. We had a real nice person working in the tool room. Wasn't so nice. And if you walked up to him and said, yeah, I need a micrometer, he would give you a micrometer. You would get this one here. There you go. I do not know what that is. 12 inches, something like that. Okay. All right, so reading a micrometer. You have the sleeve scale and the thimble scale. The thimble is the thing that turns around and round. And on that thimble, you have numbers that go from 0 to 25. So we can see 10, we can see 15, we can see 20. Let's see what's my next line. That's going to confuse you. All right. We don't see the 0 right now. What are we looking at? There's 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So it's somewhere between 14 and 15. See where it is? Okay, so every one of these numbers on the thimble represents 0.001. With me so far?
Yep.
All right. It's not too hard, is it? So right now it's between 14 and 15, so that's 0.015 and 0.014. And we're reading it right along this line right here. We're ignoring the other numbers right now. They're not important. We got to start small and then we'll work ourselves bigger. So that's real easy to do. If it came up to this line right here, it'd be how much? 0.015. If it was right here, what would that be? 0.018. 0.018. This is 19, that's 20. 22, 23, 24, 25. 25 is back to 0. Well, sorry, 0, 25. All right, so we got that?
Question.
Yes.
Since the one on this one is in between 0.15 and 0.14, like
We'll get to
you
that.
said, oh,
We'll go with easy stuff first. So everything on the thimble is how much of an inch? 1,000th of an inch. Okay, 1,000th of an inch. Now we're going to look over here. We have 0, 0.025, 0.050, 0.075, and then 0.1. So each one of these lines right down here equals 0.025. You see that? So every time I go to another line, boom, I add 25. So it becomes 50. So it's 25, 50, 75, 1. See that?
Yep.
Okay. Each one of those counts as that. Not so hard, is it? And that goes all the way 0 to 9 as you unscrew this. So if we want to put this together and start thinking, well, what is this actually saying? How would I read this? Well, first thing, then of course, yeah, we said that's 0.1. So to read this, and this is the way I would do micrometers. I actually would get a piece of paper out. When I come, I'm going to be checking you. You're going to measure a whole crankshaft cylinder, and I'm going to stand right there, and I'm going to go, all right, show me how you measured that. And you got to do it. I'm going to stand right there. You're going to put the micrometer on. You're going to do it. You're going to bring it up. You're going to be very nervous. I can't read that real quick. So what? Write it down, and write it down like this so you don't make a mistake. All right. Start with big numbers. Well, obviously, this would be like a 1 to 2 or 0 to 1 or something, but we're not worried about that. So we look at the big numbers. 1, 2, 3. We have 3 showing, right? Okay, so that means it's 0.3. We got the 0.3 right there. Follow me?
right.
Okay. Now we're going to count the little lines past 3. How many little lines past 3?
One.
1. And how much is each one of those lines?
2.5.
0.025. All right. Now we're going to go over the thimble. How many we got here? 10, 11, 12, 13, 14.014. We going to round?
No.
Hell no. We're going to talk about how to figure this out a little bit. So, add it up. 5 and 4 is 9. 3 and 2 and 1 is 3. 3. And bring down the 3. That is 0.339. What's that?
No, I just want to know how you measured that in between the 14 and the 15.
Yeah,
Because they don't even get to that. So.
All right. I could keep saying, well, we'll get to that, but I'll tell you how to do it. There is a veneer scale on most of these. I'll teach you how to read the veneer scale in a little bit. But if there's not a veneer scale, ask yourself, are you an idiot or are you somewhat intelligent? I would venture to say that you are mostly somewhat intelligent. Figure it out. Or as one of my students said, FITFO. If you don't know what that is, you can figure it out on yourself. All right. So, right in the middle. If this line right here was right in the middle, that would be halfway, right? Mm-hmm. Okay, but it's not. It's a little bit more than that, right? Okay, so if it was halfway, that would be 0.0005. Well, what do you think it is? Take a guess.
0.6.
You want to say 6? Who wants to say 7?
7.
You're both right. So it's, who am I to say? So it's 0.0006 or 7, if you will. So if you don't have a veneer scale, you have to guess. And if I measured it, or you measured it and handed it to me and you said that's 0.006, I would say, sure. Who am I to argue with you? If you said it's 5, I would say, you're wrong. It's more than 5. I can see that. Is it 8 or 9? Probably not 9. But I would say 6, 7, or 8 is right there. It's 10,000ths of an inch. Very few things are required. Engines will ask you to do it. Half a thou, yeah. But that'll get you right where you need to be. So you just extrapolate is the word. We do not round up. But a lot of them have veneer scales, so there is no guessing. All right, got that?
Yep.
All right, let's lights on. Let's practice that some more. Somebody made this a long time ago, and it is incredibly cool. It is the micrometer. I just have to kind of move it myself. So there we go. So we have the what part here? The thimble. Thimble goes from. It doesn't like to go on. Okay, it starts at 0. So let's figure this out right here. There's a lot to learn. There's more to this. So, well, if I take a 0 to 1 micrometer, and I close it all the way up using the clutch, clicky thing,
Ratchet.
and I do that, and I look at it to see that it's calibrated, all of the zeros should line up. If the zeros don't line up, it's out of calibration. How often do these need to be calibrated? Well, it depends on how picky you are. Most repair stations say you should do it at least once a year. I've been in situations where I found things out of calibration. If you do it once a year, you kind of have to wonder, did that happen on January 2nd? Or did it happen yesterday? And then everything you've done is in question. So I would not calibrate it once a year. I calibrated my torque wrenches several times a day when I built engines. But, so every time I pick up a micrometer, 0 to 1, at least close it up all the way using the ratchet. And the zeros should line up. Well, what I'm looking at is the zeros line up. The zeros line up. When it's closed, you're good. All right? On the bigger micrometers, like here's a 1 to 2. When I go all the way to the zeros, guess what? I got a bit of a space. That ain't going to work. So you have to use a standard. And these are calibrated. And so you calibrate these once a year. And so, let's see, what's this one? So when I put this in here, and I close this all the way up, This has a different kind of clutch on the end. So it doesn't work. They should all line up zeros with the standard in there. So this one's a 2, 3. 2, 3. Got it?
Mm-hmm.
How often should it be calibrated? At least once a year. How about this? At least once a year. There's no rule. Maybe there is. Shouldn't say that. I don't know. I would calibrate this to this once a day, once a week, something like that. All right, so we got our micrometer. We've closed it all the way down, and the zeros line up. So is it in calibration?
Yeah.
Yeah. What if it looked like that?
Nope.
Got a calibration problem. There's little tools. You can fix them. All right, so we got this line up right there. Each one of these counts as 0.001 or 1,000ths of an inch. So if I move it, right there, how much is that?
0.01.
0.001, 1,000th of an inch. Okay. There we go. That is
0.01.
0.010, if you like. All right. So we go. You see the 20?
Mm-hmm.
25, 26, 27, 28, 29, or 24. Back to 0. And when it comes back to 0, where should it be?
0.025.
0.025. And it should line up on
The line.
the line going this way, which is 0.025. Right? So that's 0.025. This is 0.025, and that's 0.025. So be careful. You wouldn't say 0.025 plus 0.025. That would make it very wrong. And we'll need this. It's right there. 0.02. Now let's go one more. All right, what have I got there?
0.026.
All right, so count the lines going up and down. We have how many?
26.
How many of these do we have?
1.
1. So that is how much? 0.025. Now how many on the thimble? 1.001. So it is 0.026. This is not hard, right? Okay. Let's try and make it hard. Let's see. Here we go. What do we got now? Can you see the numbers?
Point 0.075 plus
All right. So how many up and downs we got? 3. So that is
0.075.
0.75. Then the thimble is
12.
12.
So 0.0012.
7. 75? 87. Should be 87. That's 75, 76, 77. 37. All right, the problem you're going to have, and I call it the personality of the micrometer. They have their own little personalities. In a perfect world, it will look just like I'm showing you. When I come over to here, how much is that?
1.
Not 1.
0.01.
Not 0.01.
0.1. 0.1.
Because the line before it was 0.075. So that makes this
0.1.
0.1. 0.1. 0.01 would be way back over here. So that is 0.1. 0.1. Just 0.1. Well, for funsies, let's do this then. Now, what do we got there?
0.14. 0.104.
Okay, so remember, do it on a piece of paper. Do it in your head. You mess up. It's better to take a little extra time. So we do have still the 0.1. The thimble is at 4,000, so it's 104.104. Right? Okay, let's talk about this personality issue. Right there, back when I had it on the 0, It split that one line perfectly, right?
Mm.
And you would like it if that's the way it worked. But sometimes it looks like this. How much is that now?
Still 0.1.
Well, how many of the up and downs do you see? Sure, you see 3, but how much space is after the one that you just left? A lot of space. So 0.075, that's way back over here.
Right.
I did it right. A little too much. That's way back over here. So that is almost getting ready to show the line, but not quite. But it's gone. This has gone all the way around a full time. It just, the personality is such that it isn't going to show that line. But you got to be smarter than the micrometer. You got to know that it's gone around a whole time since that 0.75. So that is 0.1. Because sometimes it doesn't show. I try to use the same micrometer in this class and in the engine class all the time. Don't turn it in and get a different one, because it's just going to mess you up. Because one has a different personality than the other, because they've been around the school for decades and decades and they're abused. So get one set, keep it at your table. That's your set. Learn how it works. It's like, for me, it's hard because I got to go around to every one of them. Like, okay, wait a minute. Give me a minute to look at your micrometer and figure out what it's doing. So once you figure it out. So, all right. So given that, let's see. Okay. How much is that?
That'd be 0.11 or 0.125 plus
Well, let's see.
0.024.
Yep. So I got the 0.1. How many lines do I got?
2. You got 1, 2.
Well, there's about to be. There we go. How about that? Now what do I got? So I got 0.1. Everybody agrees with that. What's my next line? Is it 0.0? No, I'm counting up and downs. How many do I got? I have 1 or I got 2?
You got 1.
Is it 25 or is it 50?
25.
Well, I can definitely see a line there. So is it 50? Well, if that's 50, then how many do I have on the thimble?
24.
20. Then that would be 0.24. So that would make it 1.74. Almost 0.175. Does that look like it's almost 0.175?
No.
It does not. 175 is way down there. So that was wrong. Let's bring it back. That was wrong. We got the 1. How many up and down lines we got? We got 1 of them. Yeah, you can see that other one, but what's it at?
2.4.
It's at 24. Where's it going to be in just a little tiny bit?
0.
It's 0, which is 50, and you should see the line. Right? So it's starting to show itself, but you can't count it yet because that's 24. 24, you should have a large space between these. So that makes it 0.025 and 0.024, which is 94.149. Now on a real micrometer, I'm going to turn it just a little bit more. And how much is that?
1.1.
How much is that?
1.25.
That's whom you meant to do.
It's supposed to grab the line, sir.
0.15.
0.15. See, I moved it just a tiny bit, right? And now you can see it's 1 point. So I turned it only 1/1000th of an inch. I turned it 0.001 bigger, and that made it 0.150. Right?
Right.
Okay. Let's find something fun here. Okay, what do we got now? And yes, I meant to put it there.
So it's 0.175.
I should have somebody else do this. Normally I can stand like out there somewhere.
Looks like
All right, what do we got? Point.
180.
Got the point 1. How many verticals? 3. Okay. 0.075. How many on the thimble? We don't round up. So what was the last full one? 0.005. Now we got that space in between. How much do you say think that is? Maybe half? Well, now we're not guessing anymore. This has a veneer scale on it. Okay, so veneer scale 0.98765. These are the numbers we're going to be looking at. That's why they put them there. That's how I remember it. Why else would you put them there? Now we're going to ignore these numbers because they put them here. And I'm going to look which one of these lines up with something.
Huh.
And this is where I'm always impressed. Whoever built this did a great job. I can't see, but which lines line up?
4.
He says 4.
One between 15 and
Right there.
10.
Those two lines line up. You see that?
Yeah.
Okay. If I follow that line and go up to here, what number's that? 4. 0.0004. But a lot of you kind of guessed. It's just slightly, ever so slightly less than half. You could have guessed it's a 4, and now you don't have to guess. You just look at it. Well, it's 4. All right, let's take a break.